Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is 4 Paws in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today I'm going to be giving some romance recommendations for those of you that might be new to the genre. So there is a readathon happening, I think next week, actually, as I'm putting this up. I'm not a host for it or anything like that, but it's Romcomathon. I'll link it down below. It's hosted by a couple of my favorite people, Eva from Pretty Purple Polka Dots and Michelle from Michelle's Library. You better believe I will definitely be participating in this. I do have some romances that are on my TBR for the month of August, so I'm very excited about this. However, I realized that I have been reading romance for years. One of the first books that I read to start reading again as an adult was a contemporary romance. Actually, several of the first books that I had read were romances. So I have an extensive library of romance books. I have a lot of books that I have read that are romance, some good, some not good. However, there might be some of you that are not as well versed in the romance genre, so I thought I'd help you out a little bit today. I kind of fall into two different camps. I either read fantasy or I read romance, and so I know that I have some viewers of, both genres. So if you'd like to participate in Romcomathon, or maybe you don't, but you just want a nice, fluffy read to take to the pool as we end the summer, as we go into those, last couple of weeks, I guess, of the warmer weather, maybe this will give you an opportunity to pick something like this up. So I have a couple of different vibes that we're going for when I'm talking about romance. They are all contemporary romance with, there's maybe one that has a little bit of paranormal to it. But for the most part, very contemporary feeling, very easy to digest and get into. The first one I want to talk about, or the first authors that I want to talk about, is an author duo. They're kind of the queen of rom-com. So we have Christina Lauren. My two favorites are The Unhoneymooners, which is about the sister of a bride and the best friend of the groom who hate each other. And they are the only two people at the wedding that do not get food poisoning. And because of that, because of the way that the honeymoon has been set up, they have to go on the honeymoon. They have to act like they're in love, or they have to end up paying back the all-inclusive resort. It's really funny. It's kind of over the top, but it's a really fun summer read. There's not a lot of substance to it, but it's really fun and entertaining. And so, yeah, it's a good time. Good vibes. Secondly, their newest release, Something Wilder, I really, really enjoyed. I feel like this has this adventure story. They kind of have Butch Cassidy vibes. They're looking for this treasure as they go into the desert wilderness of southern Utah, and it was fun. There's more to it than just romance. I mean, there's this mystery, there's this adventure, like I said, but then it is also a second chance romance that I think is done really well. Second chance romances are not one of my favorite tropes, but I really, really enjoyed this book and how they did that. Next up, if you're looking for just some really fun rom-com-y vibes, we have the Bromance Book Club by Lissa K. Adams, this entire series. I have only read the first one. I gave it 3 stars. It's not my favorite romance of all time, but I totally see why people would like it. I just don't like the marriage on the rocks tropes, and that's what this is. However, other books in the series obviously play into different romance tropes. So I'm still going to be reading the rest of the series. I think that this was really fun. It's technically about this guy that's on a baseball team, and his marriage is in trouble. His wife wants a divorce, and he actually starts reading romance novels, historical romance novels, to try to rekindle the romance with his wife and see what he's been doing wrong. And I just think that's an interesting premise. It's really fun. It does deal with some harder issues, but it's still overall just a really good time. I have a couple of queer recommendations for you. First off is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is about the son of a rock star and a lawyer, I think, or he works for a nonprofit. And they end up starting a fake dating relationship to kind of promote his public image, try to get the paparazzi off of his back because he's had some negative press recently. And then obviously fake dating. There's going to be a real relationship, some rekindling of emotions. And this was really funny. The second book in this husband material just came out. I haven't read it yet, but it is on my TBR for August, and it might be a book that I will be reading for Romcomathon. I'm not sure that I'm going to be doing like an actual TBR. I might just end up like pulling books off of the shelf, let's be honest. One of the books that I read last month and really, really loved was Written in the Stars by Alexandra Belloff. This is a sapphic romance that's set in Seattle. It's about two women. One of them is an astrologist, and she's like behind the popular Twitter account that kind of like tells you your horoscope for the day. And then a very like data-driven, I can't remember her exact like title as far as work is concerned, but she's like very data driven, very scientific, and so like they are two polar opposites. And this was such a good time. Another fake dating trope, which I'm learning is one of my favorite tropes for sure. They end up starting a relationship or a fake relationship to get her brother off of her back, and so be like, yeah, I can have a real relationship, right? Different kind of vibe. If you are very interested in The Bachelor, I have a couple of books for you. The first one I did just read, and that's One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. This is about a plus-size woman who ends up getting picked to be like the Bachelorette, essentially. There's a lot of plus-size representation in here. There's some argument as to whether or not it's good rep or not. I'm kind of middle of the road there, because I think like some of the parts were really good and then some of them weren't. This has a lot of like the behind the scenes of The Bachelor and how those type of shows are like created and run. So that was a lot of fun. And then we also have The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane, which is queer, and it is about the Bachelor, and he's supposed to be falling for these 25 women that are going around the world with him, but he's actually falling for his producer and his handler. That's not supposed to happen, so it's like this secret queer romance. There's a lot of mental health representation in here, specifically depression and OCD, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've read this, but this was very good. It was one of my favorite books of the year that I read it, which I think was last year, if I remember correctly. All right, if you're craving fall, I have a couple of options for you. The first is the X Hex by Erin Sterling, and then I think there's a sequel that came out, either just came out or is coming out, and this has like all of the like Hallmark, like witchy type movie vibes. It's about this woman who puts an hex on her ex-boyfriend using a Bath and Body Works candle, so like she doesn't think it's real. She's just kind of like having fun with it. And then she ends up meeting him, I think, like 10 years later. And turns out hex is real. That curse was real. And then there's like a rekindling of, again, a second chance romance. And this was a fun read. I think I read this one like in a day last fall. And it definitely like set the vibe for the fall season. Fall also means football, so I've got a couple of football romances. I've talked about these a lot on my channel, so I'm not going to go into great detail. Plus, they have a very bad glare. But there's 4 books in the series. This is the first and the third one. I'm actually reading the second one during Romcomathon. That is on my August TBR. And it just follows different players on the team in what is basically the Denver Broncos. They have their own name, but it's essentially the Denver Broncos, and they're women. They're really good. They're a lot of fun. They're very bingeable, and written by an author of color. And then all but one of them have a black love interest and a black main character. Then Blitzed, I think, is the only one that has a white woman. Could not have a romance recommendation if we were not talking about Casey Mcquiston. So we've got both of her new adult romances. Red, White, and Royal Blue is just a wonderful, cathartic story about how the 2016 election should have gone. So if you're looking for a book that has like also kind of a plot, and also that the side characters really have some depth to them, Casey Mcquiston is a great author for you. This again has like, this is about the election, and it's between the son of the president, and the president is a woman, like a Latino woman from Texas who's a Democrat. Love that. And then also the Prince of England. And it's fun. It's got a lot of drama, a lot of humor in it. And this one I know is going to make a huge resurgence because they are filming the movie right now. I'm so excited. I've been seeing like some behind the scenes production photos of it, and like, they're adorable. I will have to reread this, but you know, soon. once it gets closer to the movie coming out. And then her more recent one, which was from last year, is One Last Stop. This is a sapphic romance between Jane and August. Jane is stuck on a subway. Like, literally stuck on the subway from the 1970s, and she somehow got stuck in a wormhole. So there's a little bit of this, like, science fiction-y aspect to it. And then August meets her and then continues seeing her on her daily commute. They end up starting this friendship and this relationship, and then she realizes that she's stuck on the, like, stuck in time, essentially, on this subway. And they have this really cute kind of, like, it's an interesting take on a closed-door romance and, like, a forced proximity, because, like, they only can be on the subway. But then there's also this, like, you know, plan to rescue her. It's adorable, and all of the other characters, the friends that live in August's flat, are also just adorable. So queer, so fun, but they have a lot of depth to them. All right, and then just some overall favorites of mine. Spoiler alert, by Olivia Dade, or All the Feels, which is her second book in this series. This is one of my favorite plus-size romances. This series is adorable, and Olivia Dade really discusses, like, the reality of being plus-size in the world in general, but just also as a romance. This series centers around this universe's version of Game of Thrones, and it's very obvious that Olivia Dade had problems with the last season of Game of Thrones, because this series is also having problems with its last season, and they don't understand why they wrote it this way. And it's just really funny and kind of cathartic, especially if you watched the last season of Game of Thrones. This one specifically is about one of the main characters from that show who ends up seeing this tweet of a plus-size cosplayer, and this cosplayer has gotten some trolls attracted to her on Twitter, and so then he's like, well, I'll ask you out, like, and kind of as a publicity stunt at first, but then obviously, like, they form this romance. It's adorable. This also has some neurodivergent representation in it. In this one, he is dyslexic, and then in All the Feels, the main character has ADHD. And then the last one that I want to talk about, obviously, like, we can't have a romance recommendations video without her. She is a queen. She is a goddess. She has so much representation in all of her books, both in, like, body representation or, like, plus-size representation, neurodivergence, mental health, everything like that. And, of course, that's Talia Hibbert. So I have Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which is the first book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. Now, Talia Hibbert does write some, like, real steam, okay? This might be eye-opening for you if you've never read a romance book. Most of these books have some level of steam in them. They're not, like, closed-door romances. But this one is definitely a little bit higher up on that list of steam level. This is the first book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. Like I said, each book focuses on a different Brown sister. This is Chloe. She's the oldest, and she ends up falling for her landlord, her, like, you know, maintenance guy that lives in the apartments and fixes the things, and he's also an artist, and it's adorable. Then we have Danny Brown, which is my favorite of the series, probably one of my favorite romances of all time. And then Eve Brown is the youngest, and she's just a chaotic mess, who I love. There is autistic representation in these books. There is depression and anxiety, and Chloe has chronic illness, and so there's just so much representation in it. And then the other trilogy that I really, really love is the Ravenswood Trilogy. This is one of her indie published trilogies, and again, so much representation. Ruth is autistic in this one. There is Demi Rep in one of the books. It's so good. That whole series is so good. Let's be honest, anything that she writes is amazing, but those two trilogies specifically, I absolutely adore. Okay, so those are some of my favorite romances that I want to talk to you about today. Hopefully that points you in the right direction. If you are new to the genre and want to participate in Romcomathon, I will link the announcement videos down below. Again, I'm not hosting it or anything like that. I just wanted to talk about romance today. So, that is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video, and all of the other links to my social media will be in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!